Sunday morning cold, eyes on the score, touchdown dance ball, craving for more. Friends are calling, trades are on fire. Rookies falling, championship desire. Fantasy football fever, chasing the dream. Top of the leaderboard, we're the winning team.
The quarterback, propelling the ball to receivers, tight ends, and running backs, scheming and scrambling. Pocket passers, scramblers, and gunslingers. They are the leader of men in battle against their rivals. Whether it's 4 points or 6 points per passing touchdown, they are the quarterback position. This year, we have on Netflix season 2 coming to you on July 9th. It'll feature Joe Burrow, Jared Goff, and Kirk and Chain's cousins. Last year we saw with the Netflix series, it was Kirk and Chain's, Marcus Mariota, and Patrick Mahomes. This is the quarterback show. Welcome in Colton Palmer and Dustin Brown.
You gotta give yourself a little more hype. You want me to jump on it? Dustin Brown.
Woo!
Yeah, you need your own little intro. Sometimes just pop in and do that.
We're the fantasy football healers. And Colton, are you excited for quarterback?
I am. I'm super pumped. I've been busy, if you might understand that, with 3 kids now. So I took some time to redo my rankings, and man, things really switched up from last year. It's crazy. I was grabbing and clicking and dragging and moving, and whew, it was a good time. I'm glad I got the chance to do it. I was doing it a lot of late nights, rocking the new one to back to sleep. So my sleep deprived brain gets in there a little bit. You know what happened.
Well, Colton, we know that you've done rankings here now for at least a couple years. I have not done rankings ever for Redraft, and so this is new for me. It's been a fun exercise. We're going to be going over the quarterback rankings for 2025. We're stepping away from rookies right now. We are going forward because the season is only like 6 to 8 weeks away. It's like coming at you really fast. We got the 4th of July already coming this week. The summer is already going to be on the decline, which is kind of sad to hear. But before we start, Colton, we'll have some news and notes, but I wanted to talk about a little trade that I got to go through in Dynasty Superflex League. It was Trey Lance and Savion Williams for Kirk and Chains, Sean Tucker, and a 28 4th-round pick. This seems to be a Kirk Cousins episode.
It's all about Kirk. I knew deep down you truly loved Kirk, and you miss him.
Now that he's off the team,
and you're sad that he's no longer a Viking. You just have to have any piece of Kirk and Chains that you can have. I honestly, we talked about this before this trade went through, and I was full on board with the side of Kirk Cousins getting him. He's going to move on at some point this year. My goodness, they're going to have to, unless they're just going to really eat all that money for a backup. I really think they're just waiting for one of these teams to be like, oh my gosh, we need a quarterback. We need a quarterback now, and we'll do whatever to get one. So I think it's a solid trade there because I think Trey Lance's career was over before it started. And Savion Williams it's an absolute complete dart throw. So Sean Tucker,
Savion has upside. He's a really uber athletic guy, 6'4", 222 pounds, very athletic. He was drafted in the 3rd round of the Packers as a wide receiver, but I think they're going to use him more at the running back position and that specialty player.
Absolutely could, but he's still a dart throw, and it's once again the summer of Sean Tucker. I believe everybody is back on the hot being for Sean Tucker and how athletic he was, and if he never had that neck injury, what could have been, and there's talks that,
his heart. It was his heart coming out. It was his heart coming out. It was his heart. So he was an undrafted player. He was projected to be drafted, and then he went undrafted because he was having heart complications during the medical testing.
Why did I think
But now, I mean, this is going to be 3 years removed from that.
But anyways, Rachaad White's going into a contract year, and they found their starting back in Bucky Irving last year. So I don't foresee. I mean, Rachaad White's going to try to go get a bag of money. From what he did, he's a good receiving back. He can go to another team and be that receiving back. So you're looking at possibly Sean Tucker walking in as the number 2 for them next year. So there's definitely some potential there, and people are hot on him this summer. So if you ever want to, if his value gets up there, you could just flip him again.
I didn't realize that his value was going up.
I've heard so many people talking about Sean Tucker again for some reason. A couple of the pods, they're like, I like Sean Tucker still. And I'm like, well, I don't get it. I don't understand. I mean, I didn't dislike Sean Tucker, but I'm like, he just hasn't gotten the opportunity for everyone, like on the actual NFL field, for people to be like, I still like him. So, but hey, more power to you. And he definitely has some upside.
Awesome. Here comes the news. Colton, I've got massive news to share with our audience. I have been invited to the Scott Fish Bowl this season, and I'm in the St. Louis Blues division, slot 7 on sleeper, and the draft begins on July 9th. It's a slow draft, 8 hours per pick. I couldn't be more excited.
I couldn't be more excited for you, man. I am so jealous. That is absolutely incredible. Being able to be part of the Scott Fish Bowl. I mean, it's like the biggest fantasy football tournament that I know of, at least. And that's just super cool to be a part of it. It'll be interesting to see if you get any of big names into your division.
Into my division.
Yeah. So that'd be really cool to see, and just go up and toe to toe against them. Super excited to hear how this goes, and I hope we get to talk about it a lot throughout the season, because, man, that's so cool.
Yep. So Scott Fish, he created this. This is Scott Fish Bowl number 15. And so it was supposed to be a way to raise money for Fantasy Cares. It is for charity. Scott Fish Bowl, it's a premier fantasy tournament in the fantasy football industry. It brings together not only most of the fantasy football analysts in the industry, but also famous celebrities, former professional athletes, and thousands of fans for charity. And so to get the invite this year, again, I couldn't be more ecstatic.
So cool.
The Chicago Bears head coach, Ben Johnson, is not happy with the rookie wide receiver, Luther Burden. In a press conference last week, Johnson expressed frustration with Burden not being out with his teammates and building the trust and rapport needed for an incoming rookie. Burden is yet to sign his rookie deal due to language and guaranteed money. Are you concerned about your boy, Luther Burden?
I mean, it is a bummer, just because he's holding himself up and holding up his career. And there's been a lot of we've had a lot of experience with people missing early on in training camp, typically due to injuries, so missing that beginning of summer, especially the rookies missing due to injury, whatnot. They just have a hard time adjusting, especially earlier on the season, so missing this very vital, crucial time in the summer definitely sucks, and it raises my eyebrows a little bit. Hopefully he can get it figured out. Money hungry, man. I mean, I get it.
Deontay Johnson, the wide receiver that's now with Cleveland, believes that the Super Bowl winning Kenny Pickett is going to be the starting quarterback this season.
I think he's the only one that believes that.
I believe it.
I don't.
I think Super Bowl Kenny Pickett's going to be the starter, and I think he's going to start more games than what you think.
All signs, then everything I've been reading has been one of the two rookies are going to be starting, and that Shadur is actually looking to be the best out of the group. That is everything that I've heard. Maybe Kenny Pickett gets some starts while they're still adjusting to the NFL. But, man, if Deontay Johnson is saying it, I really don't trust him. That's my big thing.
I think Deontay Johnson's going to be the wide receiver 2 for the Browns.
You think?
I mean, who else?
But you
You
got
got
Jerry
Judy, you got
Judy,
him,
Cedric
and
Tillman.
Cedric Tillman. He just hasn't taken the step forward.
He took a little bit of a step forward last year before his injuries, but
He never returned. It was like
I
the middle
mean,
of the season.
I honestly, Deontay Johnson will probably shoot himself in the foot sooner before later, and probably won't be on this team.
Plexico Burris like actual literally shooting himself in the foot.
Maybe he's kind of cuckoo up there. So
Stay tuned to the Fantasy Football Healers program. Last year for Aaron Rodgers, did you see it coming, Colton? This is the last year for Aaron Rodgers.
This is it.
The last dance.
It became personal with me.
One would say.
The final countdown. The last dance. Us Illinois folk know what that means. But yeah, it should be. Oh my goodness, it should have been a while ago. But here we go. He's getting the last dance with Mike Tomlin and the Steelers. It's gonna be something. You know, it'll be interesting. I can't say he's gonna fail because he didn't look terrible, but he didn't look good. He was not the Aaron Rodgers of old.
The first half, remember, he was still recovering from his Achilles tendon injury, and then the second half of the year, you could tell he really started to open it up. Well, that and he got his boy Adams in there too, but he started to open it up. He started playing better, and I think he'll be fine this year. He'll be fine.
The big issue is he doesn't have the weapons that he's used to. He's got DK Metcalf, who I think this year is going to absolutely go off. So if you are a DK Metcalf owner, awesome. If not, if you can get him on the cheap end, which I don't think you can anymore, I think he's going to.
He's super expensive right now.
He's going to be a valuable asset this year. But other than Metcalf, Calvin Austin kind of poked his little head up last year.
They could get Amari Cooper, Keenan Allen. They're still on the streets.
Keenan Allen would be awesome to go there. I would really like Keenan Allen there. That would be a good one, especially for Aaron Rodgers. He would just pepper him so much. Maybe it's Pat Freiermuth season, baby.
I hope so.
We keep saying that year in and year out, though. I think we know who Pat Freiermuth is now.
Saquon maybe dialed back with the opportunities, providing Will Shipley more times and more carries. Yes, this just came out this year, and it's like, well, duh. They want to preserve Saquon.
Well, Will Shipley is getting some buzz right now too. He's like, everybody's like,
Good.
this guy's got to be rostered as like an insurance back. They're like, I like him, but he's got to be. You have to have him as your insurance back. I'm like, oh, I bet Dustin hears this and he's just so excited. Like it just
Getting hot right now.
I was gonna say, just gets him all flushed, a little burning in the chest from his heart just thumping.
Pulling on my heartstrings. Austin Eckler is a cut candidate. The team would gain over $3.4 million in cap savings with a $1.5 million hit in dead money by releasing Eckler.
It'd be so
Do you think
sad.
he stays or does he go?
It'd be so sad. He just revitalized his career last year. Like it looked like he was done for, and he did good. Oh,
Okay.
I'm afraid that would be the end too. It's just hard to let go of like such especially a fantasy football asset that has been so good to your team for so long. It looked like he was dead in the water, and then he, had provided back at least a little bit of return last year. Like he was a flex-worthy player for your team, and just to have that, and if he does get released, I fear this is the absolute end for him.
Vikings could use him. We need our running back 3. Come to the Vikings. We could definitely use him. You don't think we could use him? I think we could, especially a depth piece.
I think you guys believe in your 2 running backs you've got. They let J.K. Dobbins walk. They let a bunch of people.
Akers again. We left him walk again so we can trade for him.
So I don't think I think the Vikings are happy with their running back room. So I don't think they're sniffing around.
I think it's a mistake, but we will continue. I've got 2 more bits of news. Former Browns and Patriots wide receiver Josh Gordon sold his Super Bowl ring that he got in the New England Super Bowl due to financial issues, he received $138,000. That's a lot of weed you can smoke for that.
What a story Josh Gordon was. What could have been, man? What could have been? Just especially now that, like, I mean, and I don't know what the percentage is, but a lot of the country now it's legal. So his career just down the hole for something that's even legal now. And he was so good right before all that happened. He get the suspension and just never came back, man. And sucks to see him struggle because he was such a good wide receiver. He would have gotten the money, and I think he was spending it like he was going to someday. And here we are, $138,000 later.
So I've had a few shots at a couple of my dynasty leagues that are really wanting to pump up Travis Hunter's points by providing him with defensive touchdowns. I think they're finally taking the rosy glasses off, and they're seeing that Travis Hunter is probably going to give him those wide receiver 3 numbers that Darius Slayton gives you year in and year out. And they're wanting to get more of an advantage for this guy. And we're seeing this in the Scott Fish Bowl also. They're providing IDP points, but it only benefits Travis Hunter. I don't understand. I'm like, is this guy good or is he not? Why do we have to keep pumping this guy up with defensive points? This is dynasty fantasy football. It's redraft fantasy football. It's all about the offense. What do you think, Colton?
Yeah, we talked about this right before we potted, and I have a firm rule with Travis Hunter, and I'm not changing it. I'm not giving IDP points, but if he is to score if he scores a touchdown while on defense, he gets the 6 points for the touchdown. So if he gets a pick 6 or fumble recovery for a touchdown, that's fine because I play it where if you're on special teams and you score a touchdown, you get the 6 points. So I thought that's only fair enough. If you're out on the field and you score a touchdown, you get the points. Great. But I'm not giving any other special points. So if you want to take the chance that he maybe gets a pick 6 in a game, which is rare, sure, go ahead and do it. But I think he still is a very talented athlete, and he's a very intelligent guy. So I think he's going to make it work as a wide receiver. But, yeah, I think it's going to be, BTJ is still there, and that's their number 1. And, he's going to be their wide receiver too, and people are trying to come to terms with that, but they're spending high-value assets on him and going up for him high in the first and want more than what they're probably going to get.
I think Strange or Diami Brown will actually out-target Hunter this year.
There's a possibility depending on how much he plays defense. It depends on where they need him in the game. I think it's gonna be very game dependent. If it's a game where they're like, hey, we gotta score a bunch to keep up with this, and it doesn't matter who he's guarding on defense, I think they'll throw him out there on offense a lot. And if it's a game where it's like, hey, we can pummel these guys and we just gotta stop them from scoring, then he's gonna play defense more. If they don't need to toss the ball down the field, I think they're going to play him on defense more and let him be that way. So I think it's going to be very, very game dependent. But, if you're going up against like Joe Burrow and the Bengals and you got to score a lot of points, you could see him have a big game. But then it's going to kill me to say this. If he's playing the Colts where they're not going to have to score as much, put them on defense and just stop them from scoring, and you can get away with it. So,
or that's where they pump up their points and actually throw it to Travis Hunter.
Maybe
see that too.
But still, I think it's going to be very, very game dependent, unfortunately, and you're going to be guessing. So
they got a stable of running backs that are there with the Jaguars. I think they just want to run the ball, and Trevor Lawrence hasn't lived up to be the golden boy that he was drafted to be. And I did, in one of my leagues, we did have a poll to see about getting the 6 points per touchdown, but it failed. The league decided that it wasn't going to be added in. And then in the other league, we already have defense/special teams, so it feels like it'd be just an additional added pointage to a roster. So that's it for Travis Hunter. We are going to get into the quarterback. The quarterback. It is the most important position in the NFL. Quarterback is who we are starting with for redraft. And Colton, why don't we start off with our number ones? Because I don't think there's going to be a lot of differences as we're at the top of the board. But as we go down the list, I think that's where there's going to be some variance.
Yeah. And the crazy part is, I know we're doing redraft rankings here, but my redraft and my dynasty rankings really don't differ all that much, to be honest. There's just slight variances with some of the age discrepancies, but for the most part, they follow each other pretty closely. I was looking. But anyways, we'll get to our 101 here because I'm assuming it's both of ours, and it's pretty easy there. Josh Allen is my number one. Oh, you're giving me faces. Is Josh Allen not yours? Oh my goodness. All right, well, who's yours then? I want to hear.
The Ravens are the Lords of Death. Lamar Jackson, he's better year over year. He had 4,172 passing yards last season, 41 touchdowns, 915 rushing yards with 4 touchdowns. He was the number 1 points per game quarterback. He's going to be this year's quarterback 1.
I mean, I could absolutely see he finished as the quarterback 1 last year. And he's finished well every single year for the most part. The thing that gets me nervous with Lamar, man, is he gets injured. The 2 years that he didn't finish in the top 10, aside from his rookie year when he didn't play well, was 2022, 2021. He finished as the 14 and the 15, and that's because he only played 12 games each season back to back. So
when he's healthy, he's got the most upside. That's why I have him as the number 1. And he's gotten more weapons. He's got Hopkins now too. He's got all these receivers that you don't know who he's throwing to, but it doesn't matter. Just get Lamar.
I think I'm unfair to Lamar, that's because in my 2021 redraft season in my family league, the only redraft I do, I had him, and he missed the playoffs for me, and I lost bad because he just wasn't there. So I was searching on the waiver wires to go and get someone. So
who does that to me every year? Jalen
Hurts.
Jalen Hurts every year.
Jalen Hurts does that. Yeah.
Hurts.
So he did that to me last year. He cost me a title. Jalen Hurts did, and makes me really sad. So I don't want to talk about that.
Tell me why Josh Allen's your number 1.
So Josh Allen is my number 1 quarterback, and that's because he's just such a beast, man. He's got the heart. He's going to do whatever it takes to win. He's a guy that can absolutely blow up, but he's just so consistent with his games year after year. I mean, he finishes quarterback 1, 1, 5, 6, 14, 7, 7, 7, 3, 1, 1. I mean, he's just so consistent. He's always in the top there. He has a couple games where he drops off, especially it was early on in the season. He finished as the 28, 19 a couple times. But for the most part, you see him in the top 10 for sure. It's almost like it's a guaranteed. He doesn't have very often games where he just kind of vanishes, and it's his rushing upside. He's a big, strong dude, so he doesn't get hurt. I mean, it's often rare that he is taking time off. I mean, and let's see, in his whole entire career, he's missed 5 games, and that was in his rookie season. 5 games.
Loves being on the show.
Stitch loves to be in the show for some reason. He gets so excited when I get down here. He's
like, just a show just about Stitch.
Show about Stitch. But yeah, and that's why I've got Josh Allen as my number 1, is because he's going to be consistently good, and he's going to be healthy. He's going to be out there playing. So Josh Allen, my 101.
Who's your quarterback 2?
This is going to shock you. You're not ready for it.
Lamar?
It's not Lamar.
You're missing out.
I'll get to Lamar here in a second, but my number 2 is Jaden Daniels. And I'm once again following, this is how my dynasty rankings are going too. But Jaden Daniels last year absolutely blew up onto the scene as a rookie, finished as the quarterback 5 overall. And once he got rolling, my goodness, he was hard to stop. Towards the back half of the season, quarterback 1, 2, 7, 1, 4. So I'm putting a lot of faith into a guy that I could see getting an even bigger bump in his sophomore year. Coming in as a rookie and he played that well, I could only see him getting better. He's got the rushing upside. He stayed healthy last year. He didn't get hurt like everyone. That was his big concern. Everyone's like, oh, well, he's a twig and he takes some big hits. Because in college, this dude got lit up multiple times. And I think the NFL, they're like, dude, just go down. We're no longer in college. We're banking on you staying healthy. Just go down, get out of bounds, whatever you need to do. You know, you're not Josh Allen. You're not taking these people head on and lowering a shoulder on these guys. So that's the big thing. And man, to take a team that was like one of the worst in the leagues to then making the playoffs and a deep playoff run for them. I think he's going to have an even better sophomore year, and I'm going to stick my flag in it.
Yeah, I have them high too, but I don't have them that high. I always feel like, with the rookies, the league is still trying to play catch up. And now the sophomore year, I think, is going to be the true test. They did add some weapons for him with Debo. And so we'll see how that goes. But you'll have to wait a little bit longer before you hear a little bit more about Jaden Daniels from me. My number 2 is actually Jalen Hurts. And you were saying about injuries. And I think that this is a guy who's going to stay healthy the whole season. He's going to throw more. They're going to dial back Saquon. They're going to give a few carries to Will Shipley. But I think Jalen Hurts, who had number 6 in points a game just last year, but the years before he was number 2, number 1. And he's averaging around 14 rushing touchdowns a year over the past 3 seasons. I think Jalen Hurts, I think this is his year to be the number 2.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I'm a big Hurts believer. He hurt me last year, and I don't want to talk about it still.
Hurts me every year at the end of the season,
right
before the fantasy playoffs.
Every single year. And last year it was just, in a game he didn't even need to do it to. They were going to just destroy them, and he just, took it right to the head. I
think he was still dealing with a knee problem, because there was a couple games, like even earlier on in the season, where his leg just kind of buckled underneath him. And so I just feel like there's still something going on with his knee that he hasn't really quite figured out.
Yeah, just whatever. We're not gonna go into it. But what a great redraft asset to have. Tush Push wasn't banned. We still saw him score a whole bunch of touchdowns. And even if it does get banned, I think he's still going to be high up there for me. Hurts just doesn't get the respect that I think he deserves. I think he's proved that he's a good quarterback, and people still just sleep on him. So a great second pick.
So my number 3 was a guy you already picked at your number 1, and that's Josh Allen. He's consistently in the top 3, as you said, number 2, number 1, number 3, number 1, number 1. The passing weapons, though, I still think are suspect. You've got Keon Coleman, Shakir, Kincaid, and Josh Palmer and Elijah Moore. And maybe I had a Freudian slip, because I was about ready to say Keenan Allen. And so if you could see Keenan Allen getting added onto this roster, whoo, baby, I think he could be at top 1 or 2. But I think there are some distractions for the Buffalo Bills right now, with James Cook wanting to hold in for $20 million a year. And Josh Allen, he has just completely put this team on his back year in and year out, but they still have yet to give him a passing weapon outside of Diggs. So that's where my concern lies for him, but I still see him as a top 3 quarterback. But you've got to pay up for him. He's still going number 1 quarterback at ADP of 20. So you've got to get him in the second round, in the back end of the second round, if you want to get him at all. I'll wait.
Yeah, that's fair. You do have to reach up to get him. He's almost always the first or the second quarterback, and you're always having to reach for him. But these first 4 guys, I'm assuming we're talking about here, are guys that you do kind of have to reach for in redraft. They're people get excited about the quarterback, and especially once one goes, people start getting a little shaky. They really want to have that upside in their quarterback. So as soon as the first one goes, people start getting antsy, and they're like, well, I got to get one now. Especially if you want one of the top, my tier 1 is what I'm saying for these first 4. But I'll get to my number 3, and that's finally Lamar Jackson here. So he's sitting at 3, and he's very consistent. He's good. He's got the rushing upside. Like you said, he's got the ghost of DeAndre Hopkins onto his team. So He's going to be good. He's consistently good. His thing for me is just injury, and maybe I'm holding a grudge against him. I don't know. He's still in my top 3 because I still want him as an asset, and he's one that you can get later because he does that to people. So I think they do hold grudges. My wife did actually win our family league with him on our team, so I guess I've got to give him kudos to that. Yeah, mine is it's just the injury risk and the guarantee, not a guarantee he's going to be out there for you.
There's always injury risk with the rushing quarterback, but
You're not wrong.
I think he has stayed healthy enough that he's going to get you there.
Yeah, easily my number 3, and then my number 4. I'll just jump to it because you've already said his name. That's Jalen Hurts. So this is the end of my tier 1. These are my top 4, my primary guys that if I can get them, I want them. But Jalen Hurts, it's like you said, he could absolutely be the number 2. The tush push didn't get banned, so just a great value to have on your team. And I think since he does get the disrespect from a lot of people, that you can get him later than the other 3. I think after those big 3 names, he goes a little bit later, so you can wait and get some more assets and pick up Hurts and be just fine and still have that absolute upside.
Yep, and in my top tier, I have one more quarterback as well, so I do have a tier of 4, and you had also said his name, Jaden Daniels, as my number 4. He's quarterback 4 for me. They did add Debo, as we said, but they also added Jalen Lane and Noah Brown, but he's on injury. And for his rookie campaign, he was number 5 in fantasy points. I just don't feel like I'd want to pay up at the ADP cost of 29 when I was able to get him in the mid 8th round just last season. I tend to, especially in redraft, wait on the quarterback position because there's so many wide receivers, running backs, and tight ends that I'd much rather have versus a deep quarterback class. And we're going to see here with our redraft rankings that there can be, again, a lot of diversity in who we think even the top 20 quarterbacks are. Our top tier, I think there's a lot of consensus around these players. So there really wasn't a whole lot of surprise, in my opinion, and shouldn't be for our fantasy viewers. But it's interesting to see that we both have the same top 4 in our tier 1.
Yeah, I think it's pretty much the consensus top 4. These are the big 4 names, especially in, dynasty and redraft. Like these guys aren't old. They're not. None of them are 30 yet. So it's not like they're old and starting to lose value. So like I said, this was pretty easy to follow along with my dynasty, especially these top 4 here.
So number 5, my number 5, this is a different tier. I've got this is a tier of 3 quarterbacks for me. I've got Joe Burrow here. And, I think there's going to be some more shootouts. There's no defense for the Bengals. He was number 3 in fantasy points a game last year. He was number 1 in pass attempts. He was also number 1 in red zone attempts, number 2 in team passing plays per game, number 1 in passing yards, air yards, money throws, pressured throws, passing touchdowns, expected fantasy points a game, QBR, EPA, and drops. I thought the drops was interesting, but he has no rushing upside, but he's ultra efficient. I think QB5 is the perfect spot to put Joe Burrow here.
I couldn't agree more because I placed him right here at quarterback 5. He didn't lose his weapons. He got to keep T. Higgins.
Kept them both.
Kept Chase. Hopefully Gesicki can return. We saw Gesicki pick up some steam there last year before getting injured. So
Jermaine Burton take a step forward.
Yeah, he's not. That dream is dead. It's absolutely dead. Love Jermaine Burton. Love the tape. The attitude just couldn't keep him on the field, man.
Yoshivas.
But you don't need him. You don't need him when you got Higgins, Chase, and Gesicki. They were dominating. He's gonna just absolutely bomb the ball. And I'm not the biggest believer in this backfield. I don't hate Chase Brown, and I don't hate I can't even think of his name.
Taj Brooks.
No,
I'm not a Taj Brooks fan, but like with Chase Brown, he completely reinvented himself because he was a guy that was just like flopping around and flailing as a rookie. And then all of a sudden he just took a huge leap forward because of opportunity share. There was no one else in the backfield. So they're like, just keep giving him the ball, keep giving him the ball. But what does speak volumes is that they didn't draft an early round running back in this year's loaded draft class at the running back position.
You skipped Zach Moss. That's who I'm trying to think of.
I skipped him because he's not even going to be playing.
You skipped the disrespect on Mr. Moss. My goodness.
Yeah, they also have Samaje Perine also. You don't hear me crying about him.
Bringing him back. Bring him back. But yeah, so I don't believe in this backfield that much. So I think they're going to have to sling it. Their defense is still not the greatest thing. They did invest a little bit more into it. They're trying to boost it up. But they're still going to have to sling that ball around. And my goodness, T. Higgins and Jamar Chase, I couldn't draft or get more in these leagues as well.
Definitely. Who's your 6?
So sitting here at my number 6 is, you're not going to like it, but I absolutely love it. And he's my 6th in Dynasty ranking as well. And that's Justin Herbert, man.
Oh.
Justin freaking
Wow.
Herbert.
Wow.
He started, once they let him open up, I mean, he absolutely dominated. He was starting to run. He was slinging the ball to Ladd McConkey. And now he has another wide receiver, Trey Harris, that I think is going to do well in this league. And I think he's going to be another valuable asset for Herbert. They have the running game established. They've got Najee Harris and Marion Hampton. They can both catch the ball. We've seen Najee get a ridiculous amount of targets throughout his career. Marion Hampton is a very good asset that can catch the ball as well. He's not known as a pass catching back, but he can do it. So I think we're going to see Herbert have an absolute dominant year, especially going into his second year with his head coach and also getting his offensive coordinator back. But
what does this coach like to do, though?
They like to run the ball, but they didn't last year. Everybody said it last year. And look what he did. Quarterback 9, 12, 8, 8, 12. He then had a game of quarterback 30, but then 19, 17, 7, 10, 3. I mean,
what did he finish, though, at? He finished at what? Quarterback 14?
He finished as the quarterback 11.
Okay. I had different numbers, but
Finished as a quarterback 11, but that is also including the first couple of games when they're still trying to figure out their wide receiver. Ladd McConkey hadn't established himself yet, and they eventually just let Herbert absolutely sling it, and I think they're going to do that more. They trust Herbert. Herbert is a fantastic quarterback. You know, they're going to trust him. They're going to let him do what he does best, and that's make plays, and I absolutely love him, and I think they have an even better season this year coming back with a head coach and offensive coordinator.
You know how you feel about Lamar? Maybe that's how I am with Herbert. In redraft, I think it was like 2 years ago, I ended up having Herbert, and he took me all the way to the playoffs. I had the number 1 points for and number 1 points against, and then he died off. And then I had to choose between guys like Derek Carr and Joe Flacco at the quarterback position. And every time I put Joe Flacco on my bench, he was scoring like 28 to 30 points. And I'm like, son of a gun.
Was it Cleveland Joe?
Oh, it was Cleveland Joe.
Oh.
Yeah. I don't foresee Joe Flacco getting back to those points again. In fact, I don't know if he makes the team. But we'll continue through. We'll see. Is Joe Flacco? Is he my quarterback 6? He is not.
Oh.
I have Patrick Mahomes as my quarterback 3. He has more weapons now. He's got Rice. He's got Worthy. He's got Hollywood. He's got Jalen Royals. He's got the Kelsey Noah Gray combo. And then they also added in tight ends because they still don't know what they're getting out of Kelsey. So they're like, hey, let's add a couple tight ends. They got Robert Tonyan, and they brought home Bringstool. He was an undrafted Clemson tight end that's supposedly making some plays, and they're losing a lot of defensive players. So that tells me they're going to have to sling the ball a little bit more. And let's not forget their running back core is suspect. It's degraded. Their running backs just didn't look like they had much gas in the tank, and they didn't do much at that position in the offseason. So I feel like this is a bounce back year for Patrick Mahomes, and I have him here at QB6.
I don't know what to do with Mahomes. I still have him in my
QB
top
6.
10. I'll leave it there because there's always that upside that maybe he goes back to the days of slinging the ball around. But we just haven't seen him. He's a great quarterback. I have nothing against him as a quarterback. As a fantasy football asset, he just hasn't produced, and he just carries the name so much that people are like, I've got to have Patrick Mahomes on my team because he's one of the best quarterbacks in the league. So you just have to reach so high to get him. And that's what I mainly have against him is the value that he provides for your team for the value you have to give up to get him on your team. Because he just carries that namesake. And especially like, maybe it's because the only redraft league I play in is more inexperienced people. They're like, they just go by the namesake. So they're like, Patrick Mahomes is still there. You know, they're not thinking, oh, he's not going to give me that much dynasty or he's not going to give me that much fantasy value. They don't think that way. So they reach up and get him. So he's usually gone early on. And I'm like, I'm going to buy somebody else later on. But maybe that's what's holding me back. But
ADP 59 right now. You can get him at the end of the 4th round.
I still would rather have other assets.
End of the 4th round. If you're going for an early round quarterback, I mean, you have to get Lamar at pick 24. You've got to get Josh Allen at pick 20. You got Jaden Daniels at pick 29. You even got Hurts at 38. You got Joe Burrow getting drafted a whole round ahead of Patrick Mahomes. And Patrick Mahomes has more weapons.
The upside's there. It is, but it's just someone that hasn't produced in the last couple of years for fantasy wise. I don't hate it. I still have him in my top 10. But last year he finished right behind Herbert, finished as the 12. So not terrible, but man.
He also had a bunch of receivers that went down. In fact, he took one of them out.
Oh, he did, didn't he? He did. Yeah. He took out Rice, didn't he?
Sure did.
I forgot about that.
For the season, and Rice was playing epically.
He was cooking.
But that happened like game 3 or 4 last year. It was very early on in the season. And so moving on from Rice and going towards a rookie that wasn't quite acclimated to the NFL yet, and then Kelsey, who's just kind of drudging his way to a top 5 tight end performance. What else did they have? Hollywood wasn't available until the end of the season.
Yeah, definitely.
That's my argument. I have him at 6.
That's fine. I'm moving on to 7, and you're gonna love my number 7. I don't know where you.
I think we might have the same 7.
I don't know. I love my number 7. Believe in Baker, baby.
I have Baker number 7 also.
Baker Mayfield number 7. Oh my goodness, what Baker Mayfield has done. He has grown up and he has become an absolute franchise quarterback. And the Buccaneers should be so ecstatic to get they got him off like the waiver. He was sitting at home. Nobody wanted him. And they get a franchise quarterback in Baker Mayfield that's dominating. Finished as the quarterback 4 last year. Yep. 4. And they only added more weapons. They added Emeka Egbuka, who we both really like. And
my wide receiver 1.
Chris Godwin's coming back. You know, we'll see how he does with that injury, but still has Mike Evans. You know, Bucky Irving is a good pass catching back, and he's also proven to be their number 1. Rachaad White is still a very good pass catcher. You know, whether people like him or not, he's still very good at pass catching. So
I still like him. I'm a believer.
Yeah, so Baker Mayfield has an absolute upside to just keep tossing bombs and touchdowns. And my goodness, I love him here at 7, especially because you can get him way later in redraft. I mean, he definitely boosted his value after last year. People are going to be higher on him, but still, I think he's an absolute value.
He's getting drafted in the 5th round right now at pick 69. He had 4,500 passing yards last season, 41 touchdowns, 378 rushing yards with 3 rushing scores. As you said, the more healthy weapons now, they're bringing back Godwin. They still have Evans. You know, there were some concerns about their age, but he still played really well and in a very high level without a lot of these receiving weapons. And then they add Mbuka on top of it. Like, oh my goodness, this is so great. There are other concerns though too. I think his ADP is a little too high for me to swallow. I love Baker. I think he's a great quarterback, but I would be still waiting on quarterback. I'm not drafting him at the quarterback 5 position. And, they got a new offensive coordinator also. So what is that going to do, to this offense? Hopefully not a lot.
He's had 8 different offensive coordinators. He's had
That's true.
He's had a different offensive coordinator pretty much every single year of his
Also been a
career.
roller coaster of
Yeah.
his production with those different offensive coordinators.
I mean, he's had back-to-back years of production. So, but I love Baker. I love him. Just love him. All right, on to my number 8.
We got number 8 now. This is a new tier for me.
This is I think I have this one in the same tier still for me, because I think these two are pretty interchangeable for me. I actually have them flip-flop in my dynasty rankings, and it's merely an age thing, and that's Bo Nix though. I was very impressed with Bo Nix with what he did last year. People devalued his rushing upside, and in a redraft league, I think that rushing upside is extremely important. And he's probably someone you can get later. I think he's got a value on him. Once again, after last year, he will be a little bit higher. I don't know exactly what his ADP is, but he provides. What's that?
ADP 81.
81. Okay. So what? 6th round, 7th round. But anyways.
Yeah,
I mean,
end of the 6th. End of the 6th.
Okay. Which isn't
palatable.
terrible. He
palatable.
has absolute rushing upside. They didn't add a whole lot to his weapons. They did get some of the running back field. J.K. Dobbins can catch balls. We know that. R.J. Harvey, I think, is capable. I don't think he's like known to be a pass catching back, but I think he's more than capable. So, and now they've got to actually respect the rushing game is my big thing. So that should open up his passing game a little bit more even. So I like what they're doing there in Denver. And so I like Bo Nix, man.
We are running pure. I also have Bo Nix at the number 8 quarterback position.
Let's go.
Yes. The rushing upside is legit. He played very well with minimal weapons last year. They added Ingram. They added R.J. Harvey. They're increasing their scoring opportunities in a more competitive AFC West. And that AFC West consists of the Kansas City Chiefs, the Raiders, and the Chargers, and they all got better this year. So look for Bo Nix to continue running pure and continuing to give you fantasy points.
Heck yeah.
So this one is probably going to be a little bit of a stretch, but I'm for fantasy football, not to run my quarterback core on an actual NFL team, but I've got Justin Fields at my number 9.
I've got Justin Fields at number 9.
Oh, really?
Yes.
I thought this was a hot take, Colton.
No, I've got him sitting right here at number 9.
I'm blown away. Yeah. So I have a whole thing here, but I guess I don't have to dial it forward too much. But I was saying, prior to the Steelers quarterback carousel, he was number 9 with 657 rushing yards and 4 touchdowns, and he was number 5 the year before that, and he had a little over 1,100 rushing yards and 8 touchdowns for fantasy football, and that's Lamar level rushing. He is a one-read player, but guess what? He has an elite wide receiver 1 option in Garrett Wilson on his team. So I feel like it's a very consolidated place for targets. He can check down to Breece Hall, and he can throw it to Garrett Wilson, and that's all he needs to do. And Justin Fields is going to, again, provide fantasy value, as long as he can maintain the starting position for that team. And the only quarterback behind him is Tyrod Taylor. So I don't look for them to want to bench Justin Fields, too early for a guy in Tyrod Taylor who's been a journeyman. So I like Justin Fields here at the number 9.
At the number in redraft.
In redraft.
So in my dynasty rankings, I was going through my dynasty rankings, and I'm like, oh, I was like, man, who do I need up here? And he's sitting all the way at he's sitting at 21 for me right now, actually, in Dynasty, Superflex, that is. And for Dynasty sitting at 21, and I'm like, I've got to have him way up there in redraft. And I was looking through, and I'm like, I'd rather have Bo Nix still. I was like, but my next guy, I think I'd have him over him. So I was like, Justin Fields at 9, because what an asset he is. I mean, if for a 1-year buy, that's all you need. I mean,
And you can get him super late. He's
so cheap.
131.
Yes.
And I did a redraft mock draft with the Fantasy Holics, and I drafted one quarterback because I don't see why you'd want to draft more than one quarterback when you got like 5 to 6 bench spots. And all these guys were going on their second quarterback, and I'm like, I'm waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting. And then I ended up picking Justin Fields, and I couldn't have been happier.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the 1 year, I think you're right. He's going to just pepper Garrett Wilson. We saw him do it with DJ Moore when he was on the Bears. He's able to carry a very valuable fantasy asset. Only one, but at least one. And he's got that rushing upside, man. So absolutely love it for fantasy, and especially the value you get for him. Easy number 9.
Easy money.
Now, number 10 is someone you had earlier on for me. Sitting at my 10 was your 6, and that's Patrick Mahomes. I already kind of gave my spiel as to why, and that's just because, he just hasn't, he has produced, it just doesn't feel that way. It's the namesake and the value and the money you got to spend on, or the value you got to spend on him in order to get him on your roster, because everybody wants the big name of Patrick Mahomes on their team. And so he's just lower on my board for that particular reason. It's just like you got to spend so much to get him up there, and for someone that I just think he doesn't bring that much back to your team, because it's very game dependent too. They have a very tough defense, and they like to keep those games close. They just let their defense play it out, basically. I mean, they had a lot of close games, a lot of games that they almost lost last year because the scoring was so tight and low. It was just low scoring games, and so that's just my big reason for Patrick Mahomes.
My number 10 is Dak Prescott. They added Pickens. They finally get a wide receiver 2 on this team that can actually catch the ball. And they have no notable running backs. There are cons with drafting Dak, but again, you're drafting him very late. You're drafting him at the 122 spot. So like there's only upside at this point. And so he is coming off that hamstring rupture. There's questions on his mobility, but they may give him more check down options, maybe to the running backs. And that's maybe where the running backs are going to get involved. I really don't see them like running the football very efficiently. So they're going to have to throw the ball. And that's why I got Dak up here at number 10, because I feel like they're going to have to throw. And Pickens and Lamb are their best players on the field. So you've got to give them the ball. And who has to give them the ball? Well, Dak Prescott has to give them the ball, as long as he can stay healthy.
Yeah, I don't have him quite that high, but he's coming up here shortly for me. I do like Dak, but I'll get more to him when I pick him here. But at my number 11, I have CJ Stroud. We saw him has no way. Yes.
Me too.
CJ Stroud, you're sitting at 11. We saw the rise and then the fall of CJ Stroud, and I think they overcorrected on CJ Stroud because you can get him late, but they've added weapons. We saw this offensive line was absolutely atrocious last year. So he didn't have the time. He lost Nico Collins, then he lost Tank
Lost
Dell.
all his receiving
lost
weapons.
Stephon Diggs. So I think there's a big overcorrection. Everyone's like, CJ Stroud really isn't that good. I'm like, who is he throwing to? At one point, I believe it's like Robert Woods was his wide receiver 1 for a game. And I'm like, what's he supposed to do? What can he do?
Yep.
So I think I like him here. I like that they've added weapons. They're investing to him. The offensive line should hopefully be a little bit better. But yes, here at 11, I think you're getting a value.
Yeah, not just weapon, like it's weapons. Like they added a ton. They added Jaden Higgins, they added Christian Kirk, they added Jalen Noel, they added Justin Watson. They're adding Chubb at the running back position because they're like just in case for Mixon. There were some ankle concerns still for him. His player comp. Do you know who his player comp is?
Who?
For Justin, it's Joe Burrow. And so if you like Joe
For
Burrow
Stroud. Oh yeah.
for Stroud, like he's going to just be a gunslinger this year. And you can get him one pick, exactly one pick ahead of Dak Prescott. ADP 121.
I love it. Yeah, way overcorrection on, and the exact opposite. Like you were having to reach for him last year to get him because he was seen as the next big thing, and then he just didn't produce, didn't have the season, and now he's way down there. Absolutely value, and I love getting. I would scoop up that value for sure. I'd be happy to get him that late. So big value. Here
That was a tier. That was a tier for me.
I've still got one more because you said his name just one pick ago, and here at the 12, I've got Dak Prescott. And it's the exact same reasons you laid out. They add George Pickens, and they're still lacking in this running back department, so they're gonna have to sling it once again. But Javonte Williams, Jaden Blue I don't think are the answer. They keep neglecting this running back room for some reason. But he gets another weapon in George Pickens, who I like. And I've liked him for a while. So I think he's going to have to sling the ball. This offense is going to be just fine. And they're going to just have to keep moving the ball down the field in order to score as much as their opponent is. So I really like it here. It's like you said, an absolute asset. And these two back-to-back, I think they're interchangeable either way you look at them. So him and CJ
There's literally one spot difference.
Right. I think either way, you'd be happy getting one of them just this late.
I thought it was going to be a hot take having him at number 10, and I thought you were going to have him way down the list because of injury concerns and how poor the Cowboys have been. This really surprises me quite a bit.
Apparently, we played.
I'm a little blown away on how close our rankings are actually. But my number 12 I have as Jared Goff. He was number 7 in fantasy points last year. He was 11 and 14 the years before that. I think he's going to be returning back to like his average finish here at number 12. And I think they're going to have to lean more on rushing and defense. Let's not forget last year the defense was in shambles, and they required them to throw the ball in order to stay in these games. So I think that the defense has an uptick, which means that Jared Goff doesn't have to throw quite as much as he had to last year, and that's why I have him here at 12.
Yeah, Jared Goff is a little bit farther down my list, and that's primarily due to concerns for this offense. You're buying the 1 year, and that's my thing with Jared Goff. He's a fine, capable quarterback, but this is the year that we're finding out, is it Coach Campbell or was it Ben Johnson for this offense? Was it Jared Goff or was it Ben Johnson? So you're buying that 1 year guess on who it was. And you're buying that guess on if you go and buy Caleb Williams. Was it Ben Johnson or was it the other guys? So you're kind of buying that and making the bet on that, which is why you haven't heard me say Caleb Williams' name here. So it's just that, and I don't want to take that risk on being wrong on was it Ben Johnson, and Jared Goff takes a dip, and now we're looking at him more as the quarterback 17, 16. It's not that big of a jump, but you want to do your best when you're only playing 12 quarterbacks in the league. You want to do your best to try to get that top 12 quarterback on your team at least. Preferably you want top 8 in redraft, but you're really just taking the shot on the gamble this year on who was really providing the value there.
No rushing upside here with Goff.
Correct. Once again, no rushing upside. So my 13 here, and this is a guy that doesn't have a lot of rushing upside either. Also lost quite a few of his weapons, but I still believe he got the bag and he can finally afford to live where he plays, and that's Brock Purdy, man. I've been a Purdy hater for a long time, but once again, hopefully we see a return of Christian McCaffrey, and I think they're going to have to rely on him being more of the pass-catching role, and so he stops getting injured. I mean, he can't be taking the ball up the middle, 10, 15 times a game. They're going to really get creative with getting him to the outside, using his speed strength out there against some of the smaller DBs rather than trying to take on these middle or these linemen and linebackers, I think. So he's going to be able to dink it off to him. He's going to have George Kittle back and healthy. I still really like Juwan Jennings, who emerged last year. So I think he's going to have a good season, and you're just taking a shot on, on this offense here. So I like Brock Purdy sitting there, and I think he's going to be a value because people are down because, Brandon Ayuk and losing Deebo Samuel.
Okay. Well, I've got Brock Purdy a few picks later, but Brock Purdy's player comp, Kirk and Chains.
Kirk Chains, baby.
Kirk and Chains. You were talking about Ben Johnson earlier, and I find it interesting that I had Jared Goff at my 12, and now I'm going with Caleb Williams actually at my quarterback 13 spot. He finished 21 in fantasy points a game last year in his rookie campaign with no offensive line and really poor coaching and time management. We've seen that week after week. They had like a 5-week stint of just being some of the worst coaching and time management decisions that you'd ever see in your life. But he still put up some pretty decent numbers, even with that. 3,500 yards passing, 20 touchdowns. Still had almost 500 yards rushing with no touchdowns. Their offensive line was one of the worst in the league. Caleb Williams was number 1 in deep throw attempts, number 2 in air yards. However, the accuracy rating was number 40. And again, I think that goes back to clean pocket being number 31. And there was a high drop rate at number 6, but they had number 5 in separation. So getting Ben Johnson on this team, getting some more weapons for Caleb with Loveland and Burden, and who's to say what they even play. I feel like there was just so much frustration on this team, but at ADP of 111, I would take a shot at Caleb Williams, and I can see the upside, and I could see him being a guy that could be a top 10 quarterback if things fit in place.
Did you call Colston Loveland a weapon? I love it.
I also said I didn't know how much he's going to be playing.
Oh, that's fair. I only heard what I wanted to hear. That's my husbandly hearing right there.
Okay.
I've got him actually at the next pick here. So I'll go ahead and jump in. Yeah.
The way you were talking, I thought I was providing a hot take here with Caleb Williams again. So
No, I've got him here at 14, and that's because I'm taking the bet that it was Ben Johnson that was creating this great offense. I'm a firm believer in Ben Johnson. I think he does a great job of creating this offense, and I think he'll bring it here to Chicago. And like you said, there's weapons everywhere, so if Caleb and they also boosted that line, like you said, they've spent so much money to build this line. So if he doesn't do it this year, he's done for. I think he's just a shot asset because, he's got all the weapons he could ever want. He's got a good line now. He's got a good head coach and offense. So this is it. This is the prove it year. And I think, like you said, he could easily crack that top 10, and he could be a big value. And if he's sitting at, you said what, 111? Easy.
111.
Easy money. I'd be absolutely going after him. So yeah.
But it just goes to show you, why are you paying up for a quarterback when you can get some of these guys later on in your drafts?
Absolutely true.
Quarterback 14, I have Matthew Stafford as my 14. He finished number 26 just last season, but again, that was with a broken cup. In 2023, he was number 14, so I feel like he's kind of reverting back to the mean by adding in Adams, who I think is a better player at this time versus Cooper Kupp. And let's not forget, they're also adding the Winter Soldiers, so they'll actually have a tight end receiving weapon on this team.
When you said broken cup, I couldn't help but think in my own childish mind, I'm like, "Will you get need in the nads or something?"
Pin cup.
I took it in a second, but I got it. But a Cooper Cup, but not.
Yep. He had a broken cup.
Broken cup. Yeah, that one's a hot take. I'll give you that one because I do not have Stafford anywhere near that high.
I'm at 14.
No, I don't have Stafford up at 14 because, my goodness, this man takes one hit and it's to the grave for him. His career is done. He's had that injury concern for a few years now, though.
Been healthy.
And really, I think his wife just keeps driving him to play, man. He wants to
the bed. It's the sleep number bed that he's on with his wife in those commercials. It's keeping his back healthy and fresh.
Keeping him alive. but he's been an injury concern for years, and he's still produced. So you're not wrong. But yeah, adding weapons like Devontae Adams, he could be an absolute sleeper. Because what is his ADP got to be? I mean, he's got to be.
ADP is 159.
Yeah, I mean,
You
he's
can
got
get
to
him
be
at the end of the draft.
way towards the back end. So he's
Value.
definitely a value. Definitely a value.
You miss out on any of these other quarterbacks. Just wait for Stafford.
Just wait for Stafford. Yeah, I mean, he's creative with the way he throws. He's no rushing upside at this point, though. I mean, he's not moving.
No, but he
so-
hasn't been able to rush for years, and he still consistently throws for 4,500 yards.
Yeah, I mean, Puka and Devontae Adams Puka's a great asset. I'm expecting Adams to start falling off at some point in his career, but he keeps pushing it down the road somehow. So, and trusting McVay's offense is something you can firmly believe in. That's going to happen. McVay's a wonderful head coach, but I'm going to move on to my number 15 here. And this is someone that you are absolutely going to be disgusted by, is my guess. There's probably, this one might be a hot take. I don't know, but he provides a huge rushing value. He has a new head coach who I think is going to absolutely boost this team and what they could do. And this is Drake May. I think Drake May gets poo-pooed on, but he showed last year his athleticism. He's going to have Stephon Diggs here to throw the ball to. It's an injured Stephon Diggs, so we'll see how it works out. But I still really liked his rushing upside. They started to turn it on a little bit more towards the end last year, and that was with Gerard Mayo. So getting, why can't I? What's his name right now, Dustin? Help me out here. The new head coach. He was the head coach of the Titans. Why can't I think of it?
I can't remember.
Anyways, I like him coming in. No. I know I can't come up with his name at all.
Not Grable, is it?
It's Vrabel. Thank you, Mike Vrabel.
Okay.
Yes,
I didn't know it. I was
sorry. But with Mike Vrabel coming in, I think this team takes a huge step up. He's an experienced head coach. He's had experience of turning a garbage team around and making them relevant. Like the Titans were actually relevant when Vrabel was there, but they were never like the top dog, so they just moved on from him. But Mike Vrabel is a very good coach. So I could see this team taking a step, and I think Drake May, with his athletic upside, I think he could absolutely provide value for a team. And I don't know what his ADP is. You've got that opened up for us, but
125.
You can get him late. I mean, that's the 10th round. Taking a shot on the upside of a quarterback that can rush, absolutely love it.
We're not gonna get to Drake May on my rankings, so I'll just say it right now. I have him at 24.
See,
and I felt like Drake May was one of three quarterbacks that were really challenging for me to find a spot for, and I had him just kind of settle here at 24, just one player ahead of Aaron Rodgers. So I'm a little lower than you are on him, actually quite a bit. I'm 10 spots behind you. And my main comment that I had was like, who's he throwing to?
Well, that is the concern is scoring opportunity.
Scoring opportunity is huge.
Scoring opportunity is huge, but I'd also like what they did with the
defenses that he has to go up against with Buffalo and the Jets. I've got concerns, Colton.
I like Travion Henderson coming out of the backfield. He's a good pass catching back. Maybe Stephon Diggs, and people are really big on Kyle Williams right now too. People are absolutely loving him.
He's interesting.
So it could be some sneaky upside of snagging those.
But they're also talking up Efton Chisholm, an undrafted wide receiver.
I mean,
as a potential wide receiver option.
But he could be a potential wide receiver option because Jalen Polk has proven he is not a good NFL wide receiver.
He's a cut candidate.
Oh, he's getting cut.
Yeah, I keep hearing people say that he's not even going to make the team.
Yeah, there's a good possibility he doesn't make the team after someone I liked last year too. But don't forget Pop Douglas out of the slot too.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Baker.
Who?
Javon Baker.
Who?
Remember he makes.
No, I remember him
from wheelchairs. Stand up. That Javon Baker.
I remember him. I remember the name, anyways.
Not on my rosters anymore.
I don't remember anything else about him.
But moving on, at my 15, we're going to go to 20, I think. My 15 is Justin Herbert. You had said his name quite a long time ago. My main concern, he finished number 14, number 8, number 15. He's right here, right at that 15 spot for me. They're a running back heavy team. They did add Trey Harris, which I know a lot of people love, but he is still a rookie. And Herbert, they're saying that maybe he'll run more. And I think that's why I just have him just right here at that 15 spot. I think the team itself is going to take a step forward. I just don't think that Justin Herbert is going to be the reason why.
Hey, Ladd was just a rookie too. And look what he did to our hearts. Soared
I
into
loved Ladd McConkey, but I liked Ladd McConkey more than I liked Trey Harris. And I know there's a lot of people out there that love Trey Harris, but there was a lot of inconsistencies to Trey Harris's game coming out of college.
I loved Ladd more than Trey Harris, but I do like Trey Harris a lot. So, anyways, you just want to break my heart.
If you don't mind, I think I'll go with my number 16 here.
Yeah.
My 16 is Brock Purdy, again, another name that you brought up earlier. There's not a lot to say other than I feel like they've got limited receiving weapons. Ayuk is still injured. They lost Debo. They still have Jawan Jennings, but he's 29. Pearsall, he was starting to take a step forward at the end of the season. And I think Kittle, I've got a Kittle exclamation point. I think Kittle is going to be the reason that this team moves forward. He would be the tight end that I'd be really trying to go for if I'm going for an early round tight end. But their defense is unraveling. The player comp, again, I think is Kirk Cousins. He's a very efficient player. But their line, I think this is an underrated part of why Brock Purdy is as low as he is. They lost multiple offensive linemen. Left guard Aaron Banks is now with the Packers. Their swing tackle Jalen Moore is now with Kansas City. And Trent Williams, he's been injured a number of times over the last few seasons. He's aged, and there's speculations that there's a chance that he could retire before the season even starts. So that's why I have Brock Purdy at number 16.
At my 16 spot, I've got Jordan Love. Jordan Love was the golden boy just a few seasons ago, and everybody's like, "Oh, I love this wide receiver core, a bunch of young studs," and I think Josh Jacobs said it best. They just don't have a wide receiver one, that consistent guy that he can rely on, that he can keep coming back to score and move the ball down the field. He's a very talented quarterback, but he doesn't provide any rushing upside. And his assets are just questionable. It's like, who is it going to be this week, or if there's someone at all? And last year we saw it was just Josh Jacobs carrying the team on his back. So I've got him sitting there for just that potential upside that maybe this passing game gets a little bit better. But I've got him sitting there because he's still a good quarterback that can make things happen. Definitely just a streaming option, though.
Jordan Love is my number 22 quarterback. He is not going to be on my list. Traditional pocket passer, very limited rushing, only throwing 29.5 pass attempts per game. That's ranked number 30 in the league, plus no alpha wide receivers. And I still say no alpha wide receivers. So
golden ain't it.
Sorry, Jordan Love, but you might be one of the worst quarterbacks in the NFC.
Like he's a bad quarterback or fantasy quarterback? Oh, you heard it here first. Dustin hates Love.
Anti-love.
Just hate. Nothing but hate flowing through that heart.
Yeah. Sorry, Charlie. Well, let's see. And you had Love. Was that 16 or 17?
That was 16.
Okay. Who's your 17?
My 17 is Kyler Murray.
I have him also as number 17.
Kyler Murray sitting at 17, and that is purely for his rushing upside and the fact that maybe Marvin Harrison Jr. can take a step up this year. And also maybe he peppers his actual targets and they get some good routes for Marvin Harrison to run rather than just say, hey, go down the field and we'll see if we can chuck it to you. Maybe they make some more strategic moves with Harrison. But, he does have the rushing upside still, but, man, he's just so inconsistent. I can't put him up in the top dogs because he's so inconsistent. I cannot rely on him in, week out. So
I
that's
initially had him
primarily.
lower than 17, and I moved him up to 17. There's no real changes on offense. They're rewinding it back. They're having the same offense as they had last year. He did finish number 12 last season,
Doesn't feel
but
like that.
I don't trust the Cardinals. In fact, their coach Jonathan Gannon, I have as my sleeper first coach fired.
They should have fired their offensive coordinator after last year is my big thing. They needed to switch things up. The offense just couldn't get anything done. I didn't like the offense. They weren't utilizing their weapons correctly. And it just was bad. And so, but they kept them. They did not move on and they didn't make any changes. So yeah, I agree.
All right, let's see. That was your 17. That was my 17. My 18 is keep going. Daniel Indiana Jones. I think he's going to be the starter and maintain the starting role for your Indianapolis Colts. He was just last season, he was number 25 in fantasy points a game, and he really didn't play all that much. In 2023, he was injured. But if you look back at 2022, when he wasn't injured, when he wasn't off of a team, he ranked number 10. And then in 2021, he ranked number 17. So I don't feel like number 18 is that far-fetched. He has a massive rushing upside. And the Giants, he didn't really have any receiving weapons on any of his Giants teams. This is going to be the best receiving core that he's ever played in his entire career, with Pittman and Warren and Downs and Pierce, and JT is still on the team. So he still has a check down guy. He is going to whip the Colts into shape.
I hope there's people watching this, me giving you glares. I just think the reason I can't put in Indiana Jones in my top 20.
Oh, yes.
And it's primarily just because I just don't have faith in this Colts offense. Oh man, it's just bad.
Remember, the Giants weren't good, and he was still QB 10 and QB 17.
Yeah, we saw him.
His rushing upside is a massive boon.
We saw something. He made some things happen too when the Giants were bad, and he carried them. But I just don't know if Daniel Jones still has it. I don't know if he's the answer. And it's you're playing a game too of, I think he becomes the starter at some point, but are you playing a game
week
of,
1?
Are you playing a game though of, hey, we still spent a high asset on Anthony Richardson. We're going to give him some games here. And then if Daniel Jones plays bad, are we going to try to let Anthony Richardson play again? Are we going to try to let Daniel Jones again? Oh, are we going to let this new guy play? If this Colts team is bad.
The team is not behind Anthony Richardson. The players are not behind Anthony Richardson. They want a starting caliber quarterback, and that's Daniel Jones.
If they want a starting caliber quarterback, then they're going to be looking to next year.
Remember, Daniel Jones, he got that massive contract with the Giants to leading his team to the playoffs, winning against my Minnesota Vikings. Stranger things, Colton. Stranger things.
Not wrong, but yeah, I just don't know. I don't know. Hopefully he can make Pittman great again. That would just make me happy. If he can do that. Jones, if you can do that, I'll be a believer. All right? Tune in. If you can do it, I'll be a believer.
For a better outcome for Pittman.
That's what I want. That's all I care about. That's what I want. Make Pittman great again. All right, here at my 18, it's someone you don't like, but that's Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence has been he was projected to be the golden boy. He was supposed to be a top asset. You were having to draft him high if you wanted him. and everyone was expecting him to take a massive step up, and he didn't. But man, this Jaguars team has just been doo-doo. They've been bad for a couple of years, but they've brought in some new regime and a head coach, a new GM, so a new offensive coordinator, someone that we saw make Baker good, so maybe he's got some plans, and I'm sure his ADP is so low because he's been so bad, but he's at least always out there on the field. He only took a couple games off and played through so many injuries. I like Trevor Lawrence still as a quarterback, just not as a golden boy quarterback. He's still a capable quarterback. So I like him just getting value here later.
So I have Trevor Lawrence. He's my number 20. And so I'll spoil that right now because I'll say my 19 here in just a second. So you'll have all my top 20. But just to add into Trevor Lawrence, his ADP, like you said, is you can get him very late. He's 146 ADP. He finished as the quarterback 22, 13, and 12. And so we still have him kind of on the back end. I have him, losing receiving weapons in Ingram and Kirk and Gabe Davis. They added a part-time wide receiver in Travis Hunter. And then they also have Diami Brown. I thought maybe I was too low on him because it seems like he's getting a lot of hype, but I want him to prove it first and show me that, can he be that golden boy? And I find it interesting that you had said golden boy and I had it right here in my notes, prove that he is the golden boy.
We're too predictable.
Yeah. So, he's not a quarterback that I've really trusted over the years. I think I've drafted him once, but my number 19 is Geno Smith with the Raiders. He was number 15, number 20, number 8. The Raiders, they're building a franchise. There are no alpha wide receivers. The receiving core consists of Myers, Trey Tucker, Jack Besh, Deontay Thornton, and of course Bowers and Mayer. I'm just wondering, are they going to have more 2 tight end sets? But I feel like they're just going to be leaning on Gentry and Mostert, both of which can catch the ball. So, I have Geno down lower, but I think this is a respectful spot for him and for this team in a division, again, that's going to be very competitive. So Geno Smith is my 19 and Trevor Lawrence is my number 20.
All right, I'll give my 19 and 20. My 19 is someone you spoke of earlier, Jared Goff. I've got him sitting there because I'm placing the bet that they're going to rely on Sonic and Knuckles. Campbell's going to play the smash mouth kind of offense, I think, with Ben Johnson leaving. I think they're going to move in and they're going to be relying on those two. So I think we see this passing game take just a little bit more of a step back rather than a step forward and continue the way it is. So that's just my bet, and I'm just planting that flag because of it. They have 2 very good in David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs, running backs that they're going to continue to lean on. And we saw them do it last year. And we saw with Montgomery going down that Gibbs can take that workload. He did it last year. He was dominant. So why not use these 2 guys that you have and rely on them heavily? And that's, I think Campbell will love that. So my number 20 is something you already
Daniel
know.
Jones?
It is not Daniel Jones, you turd. It is your quarterback, and that's J.J. McCarthy. You knew I was going to bring him up. I knew you weren't going to have him in your
both
top
stab
20.
each other in the heart.
I knew you weren't going to have him on your list. So
I have him at 23.
23. I think people are super high on J.J. McCarthy, and maybe I don't know what his ADP is, but I feel like it might be a little high for my taste.
139.
Oh, actually, that's better than what I thought it was going to be. So not terrible, but
redraft 139.
Right,
I think
redraft.
in Dynasty, that's where it's propelled astronomical. Like the buy window's over.
Yes, I like JJ McCarthy, and that is purely because I am a believer. I don't know what he can do on the NFL field yet. We haven't seen it, but I am a believer in this offense and
doesn't throw.
And Kevin O'Connell. And look who his throwing assets are. He has the best wide receiver in the league, and Justin Jefferson. Jordan Addison has proven himself to be a very, very good wide receiver in this NFL. You know, we saw what he made some incredible catches last year. He had some very good games, and he is a very good wide receiver too. You got TJ Hawkinson finally going to be off of his injury, coming back for his second year, and he'll establish himself as a very capable and good, valuable receiver for him. So I believe in this offense. I believe in the receiving weapons he has. I think anyone could thrive in this offense. I think we're going to see Sam Darnold take a step back because he's not in this offense. This offense is a very good one to be in, and I think
doesn't have any
JJ
offensive line.
will be just fine.
No offensive line for Sam Darnold.
No. So we're going to see him take a step back, and JJ McCarthy will be just fine in this offense from what Kevin O'Connell makes it to be.
I got Sam Darnold at number 27.
Oh, I didn't even go that far. I don't even. Sam Darnold for me is
Poor O-line, Milroe in the wings. Don't think he starts the full season.
Yeah.
I'm concerned about Sam Darnold.
Sorry, buddy. You got paid, though.
So did Kirk Cousins. Used and abused. Ship him off.
That's all right. I got my money, though.
Definitely got paid. But Colton, we definitely did a pretty good job here with tossing around our quarterback rankings for redraft for this year. I really enjoyed it. It was a fun exercise, getting all the way to 20 with a few splashes with some of the quarterbacks outside the top 20. It was a little bit longer episode. I hope everyone enjoyed the program. Continue to stay tuned with the Fantasy Football Healers. And again, I'll have to give some updates on the Scott Fish Bowl as it continues to go forward.
Yeah, once again, man, super jealous. This was a fun one, though, I've never done rankings for redraft, so this was a fun one, and see how it just compared to like my dynasty rankings and everything. And you know, if you're looking at redraft rankings and you're like, why am I doing this on a dynasty show? But look at them as in, like, if you're a contender, that's your list, you know, because it's the 1 year. That's your list, is that you need to be going off of, is knowing your redraft rankings, because it's like, what do I need for the year one to get me a championship? So it's really nice to actually do and have off to the side. Of course, you're playing the game of dynasty and you have your dynasty rankings and youth and everything involved, but redraft is where it's at if you're trying to win the championship, and seeing where you can get these guys as a value, but where they're going to provide you the value within the 1 year. So definitely a good thing to do if you're in dynasty and a contender.
Yep, I think that's great feedback. I think year over year, the last few years especially, I've seen more people drafting like they're drafting for redraft for their dynasty teams than it was, 6-7 years ago. It's crazy. People are here to win now. They're not here to wait. They want to win now. And if you're going to win now, then you've got to go off of the redraft rankings. And again, you can kind of look at values, like who can I trade for at this value versus what maybe a player that you have, and you're like, oh, this person's way too high. Ship them off, maybe, down tier and gain a little bit of value. And then that's how you win dynasty.
Yes, it is. Old guys win.
All right, let's end on that. We'll keep the old guys on the top to end this show. So thank you everybody for listening in. Thank you, Colton, for being part of the program and the show again. Fun episode, and stay tuned to next week's pod.
Salud.